Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I'm going to be going over my updated list of the top 10 greatest Spyderco folding knives ever. This list and the ordering is based on a few different elements here: availability, utility, build quality, accessibility, and overall value, the average of everything. I'll kind of briefly explain, but I want to go through this list quickly so that we can kind of move on to the next one. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Most of these knives are available, so I will link them right down in the description. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Starting off here with number 10, we got to talk about the Tenacious. The reason that it is number 10 and no higher on the list is basically because of the price. Even though it is the cheapest on the list, it still is kind of an overpriced knife, considering the materials are just, I mean, in the lightweight version, it's just the glass-filled nylon, or whatever you want to call that, and then the ATR 13 MOV, which is not a fantastic steel, but it has wonderful cutting geometry, making up for what the composition lacks, and it is also the absolute best entry-level Spyderco that you can get your hands on. If you're thinking like, I don't know, they're really weird and ugly, I don't know if I'll like them, start with the Tenacious. It's a great example of what makes a Spyderco knife a great knife, and it won't break the bank. Moving on here to number 9, and of course we have to include the Spyderco Smock. The price has absolutely gone up. What did these start at? $175. They're now $212 at base. You're not looking at a base one. You're looking at mine, which is the special edition in M4 and blah, blah, blah. The base form is great though. And this is actually a button operated liner lock, not a traditional button lock or plunge lock. This is kind of like Spyderco's Benchmade 940, but just better. I just like it a lot better. I like the overall construction. It's still nice and Spyderco-y. You can even kind of get at that little hole there and do your flicks and flips. It's kind of like, if you look at Spyderco knives and you're like, all of these look like dead pelicans. Do you have any Spyderco knives that are less dead pelican-y? The Smock. The Smock is much more normal looking. It's still weird, but it's a lot more normal looking, and it's also wonderfully ergonomic. It's just got straighter lines and less, I don't know. It's kind of like, a lot of Spyderco knives kind of look like a Toyota Prius and a large prehistoric bird got together and, you know, made babies. But yeah, the Smock is a little bit better looking, and it's wonderfully utilitarian, and it's very fidgety. Definitely an enjoyable, high-quality day-to-day tool for sure. This one is also low on the list because of the price. Now, the version I have, I want to clarify, has been shortened. This is the Spyderco Capara. There's a gentleman who goes by the name of Blade Chops who takes knives and chops them down for people who want shorter versions. This is not a factory release. The actual Spyderco Capara is more along the lines of the Spyderco PM2. In fact, I would argue that the Capara is actually a super evolution of the Spyderco PM2. Made in Taiwan. The problem is that it almost got too premium to the point where they really blasted the price into the freaking mesosphere. $246 now for the Capara. I believe these were something like $190 originally. This is a wonderful knife, and the ergonomics are beautiful, whether you have a custom short one or the original. Honestly, the original is fantastic as well. I love everything about the Capara. It just feels like the Spyderco PM2, but modernized. Moving on here to number 7. This literally used to be number 1, but the price has become so out of control, I can't put it anywhere near number 1, but it's still amazing, and that's the Spyderco Shaman.
You're saying it wrong. It's
Shaman. Shaman. Mine's been altered. I took some scales off a different one. The Spyderco Shaman is absolutely 100% my favorite ergonomic design from Spyderco, and it is a wonderful day-to-day tool. I bought mine back when they suffered the first price hike. It went from $155. Believe it or not, these started at $155 when they were released, and it bumped to $180, and everyone just lost their mind. $180 on what? Right? Fast forward to 2023. What are these bad boys coming at now? $252. Jesus Christ! That is the reason that this knife is no higher on the list. Every other element that I talked about at the beginning of the video, this knife is wonderful. And for lefties, you know, saying, oh, it's a right-handed compression lock. Listen, I am right-handed, and this knife is plenty easy to manipulate with my left hand. I think the compression lock is, well, definitely catered, generally speaking, to right-handed folks. If it is not a left-handed compression lock, it is still very, very easy to manipulate with your left hand. You're not in, you know, quite the same position, but certainly something that left-handed people can, you know, sort of adapt to. And Spyderco does a great job of giving you roughly 27 different positions for you to mount the clip in, right? Tip up, tip down, left or right-handed carry, right? Whatever you like to do. As long as you don't like, you know, some sort of weird horizontal carry type of thing, need a belt sheath for that, you'll probably be okay. The Shaman is amazing. A lot of people complain about the nub. They say, oh, I don't like that the nub comes around and it touches my finger.
When you talk like that, I'm tempted to ring for Nanny and have you put to bed with no supper.
Some people don't like it that the nub comes around and because it touches you. I find that to be an invalid complaint. I think a more valid complaint is that this has the least Spyderco slicey blade of all of the really good Spydercos. It's a little bit thicker behind the edge, but it's not going to slow you down that much. The Spyderco Shaman is still a wonderful knife if you can choke down that spicy meatball of a price tag. Moving on here to number 6. And the only reason that this knife isn't any higher on the list is because of availability. It just seems to pop in and out of availability. It's officially discontinued, but they keep finding batches of like 500 that they distribute to retailers. And that's the Spyderco Gale Bradley 2. This list would absolutely not be complete without the Gale Bradley 2. This bad boy sports CPM M4, made in Taiwan, has that laminate G10 carbon fiber stuff, which I really hate, but okay, fine. The last known price of this thing that we saw on retailers was $207. It would be miraculous if they actually kept it at that, but at $207, it's definitely not the worst priced knife on this list. It's also much like the Smock, it's a much more attractive Spyderco knife to people who don't find the general Spyderco aesthetic pleasing. This is a much more knifey, like traditional knife Spyderco. And it's wonderful. Outside of a little bit of a pinchy access to the liner lock, it's a truly wonderful knife. Moving on here to number 5, and that's, of course, this Spyderco Delica. I've got mine here. Mine's obviously a fancy schmancy one with the titanium and the Damascus and all that. You know, if you dig it up, you could probably find it. But the base version of this knife is nothing spectacular in terms of handle materials. It's the injection mold plastic, right? It's got an ambi lock, the back lock. It does have an ergonomic design, and it does have that classic Spyderco look and blade geometry and all of that. The base version comes in at $88 with VG10 steel, which is okay. You can also bump up slightly. You know, some of these, like the Blade HQ M4 edition is $124, which is some of the cheapest M4 on the market. You can also get the ZDP 189 version. This is literally a Spyderco for anybody. You can also get them in a wide variety of different colors, making accessibility and overall value really, really great. This knife does not have the same fidget factor and sort of fun of manipulation that a lot of other Spydercos have, and that kind of pulls it away for some people. But as far as, you know, a simple, straightforward cutting tool, to some people, the Spyderco Delica is the greatest Spyderco ever made. So it just depends on your perspective, as is the case with the whole rest of this list. Moving on here, here's a knife that if I don't put it as number 1, there's a whole bunch of people who legitimately will be upset. Fortunately, I don't care. The Spyderco PM2. I have a problem with the price tag because much like other Spydercos, they just keep bumping it up and bumping it. I remember, wasn't there a time where this thing was like $125? It's now $175. Obviously, mine's been outfitted with some titanium scales. They do come in S45EN now, which I think is a nice, you know, that's a nice upgrade, right? You get an enormous amount of additional chromium or stainless qualities. Edge retention and sharpenability are about the same, right? But Spyderco does a great job. It's a fantastically utilitarian knife. It's got a weird blade to handle ratio, and I think part of the reason it's so popular is because it is one of the weirdest, you know, mainstream Spydercos. I mean, if you really want to dig into it, Spyderco knives get really weird, right? Look at the Matriarch. Holy crap.
No, hard pass.
Really weird, right? But it's such an oddball looking, there's nothing else on the market that really looks exactly like this. Certainly not when this thing came out. Beautifully easy to manipulate, lefty or righty, right? Wonderful ergonomics, really nice knife. But that $175 price tag is keeping it from being any higher on the list. Moving on here, that's the Spyderco Manix 2. This is a loaner from a viewer. This one's in 15V and titanium, but the base version, G10 and S30V, still made in the United States, obviously, comes in at a wonderful, honestly, where all of the American Spyderco knives that are in the same tier should be, $151. The Shaman, the PM2, the Para 3, these should all be the same. They should all be about $150. The Manix is just inexplicably less.
One particle of unobtainium has a nuclear reaction with the flux capacitor. Carry the two, changing its atomic isotoner into a radioactive spider. Fuck you, science.
Ambidextrous lock. It's got a unique lock, right? It's got the cage. The standard cage is plastic. This has been updated to titanium, the Flytanium cage there. But lefty, righty, friendly. This one doesn't have all the different mounting positions because it's got custom scales, but the standard one does. You can also get, different versions of these, the lightweights and all the different, steels and the sprints. The Manix 2 has always had a good price tag. It's also got arguably one of the best cutting geometries. This leaf-shaped blade in particular is hands down one of the best blades that Spyderco has done. Really, really nice. And it has those hand melting ergos that are nearly identical to like the Demco ergos, Hinderer ergos, right? Very Strider-esque ergos, right? Really good stuff. It's a little bit wide in the pocket. It's kind of one of the bigger ones. And in some cases, it can be a little bit difficult to kind of whip it closed. Once you adapt to it, it's plenty easy to manipulate. And it's definitely one of those Spyderco knives that has that like fun fidget factor to it. Moving on here, an absolute number 2. Absolute. And that's going to be the Spyderco Sage 5. The lightweight version coming in S30V. They didn't start us with the BD1N stuff. S30V for $148. Probably the best overall combination of blade geometry, ergonomics, ease of manipulation, all of that stuff. I think one of the only problems is that you have fewer choices with this thing. They do have the Sage 1 through the Sage 5, and the Sage 1's a liner lock, and they got all this different stuff. I don't know. But the more, if you want something more premium than the injection mold plastic, you have to pay substantially more money. I want to say it's like $196 for the, is it G10 and carbon fiber laminate stuff? Which, wow, who cares?
See, nobody cares. Nice hat.
This is one of the best options you can choose, and it makes for a wonderful day-to-day EDC knife. Really happy with this thing. It's just straightforward. It's one of the most solid. This was probably one of the easiest placings on the list. The only issue for me was, is it number 1? And then I came to the conclusion not quite. So definitely a solid number 2. Very much an excellent choice even today. And then moving on here to number 1, and I think you guys are going to be able to guess what it is. A lot of people are going to say, this is unfair, this is unfair. Quiet down. Spyderco Para 3. Absolutely the number 1 greatest Spyderco knife that's ever existed. But those things have seen the same price increases as the PM2. It's only $10 less at $175. That's true for the G10 version with S45VN, which is still a slap in the face, but not quite as hard as the canoe paddle that they hit you with the PM2 pricing. Or let's not even talk about the Shaman. That's like sitting cross-legged in front of a Civil War cannon and saying, let me have it. It's ridiculous, right? The Spyderco Para 3, as far as all of the flagship Spyderco knives, is the best price outside of the American flagship Spyderco. Is the best price outside of the Manix. And the other nice thing is that the lightweight version, which is also made in the United States, is probably the most solid feeling lightweight Spyderco because of how they do the scales. They do come in well priced at $124, but you can get the Spy 27 version, which is at Spyderco's exclusive steel, their proprietary blend, right? Spy 27 is very, very similar, almost identical to S45EN. You can get that for $149, which I believe is the best priced Spyderco Para 3 and almost the best priced USA Spyderco, arguably, versus the Manix 2. The existence of that thing and the fact that the overall profile is lightweight, compact, has all of the Spyderco-y Spyderco-ness that you could ever want in a Spyderco, right? You've got the great blade geometry, you've got ease of manipulation. This is an absolutely wonderful knife, and the ergonomics are that of most full-size knives, even though this thing is much more compact. It's just absolutely excellent, and again, easy to manipulate if you are left-handed. Availability, accessibility, these things come in a million different sprint runs, right? Value is still there, not so much with the G10 and S45EN version, but other versions. Absolutely the number one Spyderco, in my opinion. Like I said, all of these knives will be linked down in the description so you can check them out if you want to. Let me know what your favorite Spyderco knives are, or if I missed something. Always happy to hear what you guys think. Thanks so much to my patrons once again for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.